Hello, humans. Welcome to Exploration Space. This is my channel where I'm going to be exploring space. I've always wanted to know more about space and the things that humans are doing to go to space, but I've never really had the time or opportunity to go in and actually study it. So I decided I would start a YouTube channel and we can learn together. And I don't know if this is the right way to do it, but I figured the way I would do this is I would basically just go on NASA's YouTube channel and I would go to their oldest video and we would just start there. And I will try to build my knowledge of space just by going through NASA's YouTube channel and reacting to all their different videos over the years. This video is like 17 years old or something. So they've got a lot of videos, but most of them are pretty short. So I don't know. We'll try it out. We'll see what we learn, and then I guess I'll just do this. I guess I'm gonna use my webcam because it's easy and it's cheap. I already have it, and I've got this Fine microphone that I'm using. And then other than that, I mean, I'll probably upgrade equipment if this kicks off, and it's worth my while to do so. But anyways, that was a super long intro. I didn't even want to do an intro. So here we go. Let's watch. This is Apollo 8 Part 1 from 17 years ago on NASA's YouTube channel. I don't know anything about the Apollo program.
And this year, the museum is honoring the 40th anniversary of the Apollo 8 mission and the accomplishments of its crew, Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, and Bill Anders.
So I've been to the museum. I went there this past year. I went there recently, a few months ago, and that's what really kicked off my re-interest into space and actually like learning about it. I don't know who this guy is. He might be an astronaut. I don't know. I guess we'll learn maybe.
Not just because of the occasion tonight, but I've said this repeatedly. I think the Apollo 8 mission was one of the most important missions of the whole NASA experience.
I don't know what Apollo
And I don't
is.
say that just because
I don't know which mission that
was.
was.
A very, very unusual mission about which we'll hear a lot later on.
Okay. Okay.
The mission departed December 21st and returned December 28, 1968.
68.
It was the first time that
Oh, is
humans
that the moon
left the
landing?
vicinity of Earth and traveled to another world. And I think the things that we'll hear them describe this evening will show what faith they had in the engineers and the people they were working with and the crew and the team and the equipment and everything else. And we will be hearing a great deal about the mission, but let me just set the stage with a few historical facts. Apollo 8 was not originally planned as a moon mission.
So maybe it wasn't the one where they went to the moon. Or maybe I should just stop talking and let them like get into what it's about. But if you guys are into space, let me know. Like comment down below what Apollo 8 was. If you have any like videos you suggest that I should watch, let me know those as well. Like I said, I'm just here to learn. So I don't know much. I know very very little about space and the current space programs we have. I'm into like SpaceX, obviously Space Force. But I don't really know too much. That's what this whole thing's all about. So
NASA's plan was to do an Earth orbital mission. But in September 1968, the Soviets sent Zond 5 to pass by the moon.
Zond 5.
It
What a
carried
cool
and
name.
returned to Earth a payload of turtles, wine flies, and mealworms.
What?
Now that's quite a character. Now, I don't know if there's any similarity between those
Wait. You're telling me that the Russians sent turtles to space? Space turtles? That is epic. On the Zon 5, that needs to be a cartoon, right? We need to make a cartoon called the Zon 5, and it's about space turtles. That is the most random thing I ever heard. I knew people sent monkeys to space, like I think the United States sent monkeys to space, or maybe that was Russia too. I don't know. But they sent turtles to space. That is hilarious.
types of cargoes, and the ones that occurred later on, when the U.S. sent them up or not, but Borman, Lovell, and Anders were a step up from turtles, wine flies, and mealworms. There's no doubt about that.
I wonder why they chose flies and mealworms. I guess maybe they were trying to test different types of life in space. I guess that makes sense, because Flies are insects. Mealworms are also insects. Why turtles though? Did you send them with water at least? Like,
And it
I'm
carried
gonna have to
when
look that
it
up.
brought them back to Earth. Of course, the USSR repeated the feat in November with Zond 6. The space race competition to land
John
humans on
Glenn.
the moon,
Oh,
the goal
okay.
set by President Kennedy in
He's a senator.
'61,
Okay.
seemed to be heating up
I don't know
considerably.
anything about him.
And after
Nothing.
the successful Earth orbit mission of Apollo 7, the time seemed right for a bolder, a riskier mission, a voyage to the moon. Reportedly, even the Apollo 8 astronauts rated their chances of success at no better than 50-50, that they're willing to
Wait,
go.
success for making it to the moon or success for staying alive? Because 50-50 is not. I don't know if I would take that chance. That's a pretty ballsy chance if you're going to be like, yeah, I might live, I might die. So I hope he's talking about 50-50 chance of making it to the moon. Because
Before Apollo
that's
8, the U.S.
brutal.
had flown only 17 missions in space. Only
Really?
17. And
Hmm.
only 22 different astronauts before that had gained spaceflight experience. Of those, Apollo 8 Commander Frank Borman and Command Module Pilot Jim Lovell had flown more hours than any other astronauts. Indeed, together, they had more hours than all Soviet cosmonauts combined.
Jim Lovell's a name I'm
They
familiar
flew
with.
together on Gemini 7, a 2-week endurance test in which they lived together
Oh,
in a cabin.
Geminis. Okay, so yeah, like I said, I have a little bit of familiarity with space stuff. So I forgot about the Gemini missions. Again, I don't know any details of any of these missions, but I recognize the terming Gemini, and it's probably just because, like I said, I was just at the NASA Kennedy Space Center a few months ago, so I was reading a lot of stuff. But like, so there's the Apollo, right? The Gemini, the Artemis is the current generation of missions. The Artemis 2 is the one that's going to launch and send people back to moon orbit for the first time in like I don't know how many years, 20 years, 50 years. I don't know. It's a long time. Um maybe even 80 years. I don't know. But so Artemis 2 is that one. I'm going to try to see the launch. It's really hard because I live up in North Carolina and the launch is down in Florida, obviously. And they keep scrubbing it. And so it was like it was supposed to be in January, February, March. March. It was supposed to be in March. Well, first I was down there in February. It was supposed to be in February. It was on the pad. I got to see it on the pad, which was really cool. But then they scrubbed it, and then it was going to be in March, and then they scrubbed it, and now it's maybe going to be in April. They're saying no sooner than April 1st, but I'm like, I can't go down to Florida and just wait for no sooner than April 1st. Like, so it's really frustrating. But if they nail down a date for it, I'm gonna try to go down to Florida and see the launch of it. Anyways, let's continue with Apollo 8 here.
Size of a Volkswagen Beetle.
What?
After
What was that?
recovery, Jim Lovell joked her in a cabin. They flew
Sorry.
together on Gemini 7, a 2-week endurance test in which they lived together in a cabin the size of a Volkswagen Beetle.
Wow.
After
Crazy.
recovery, Jim Lovell joked, "I want to announce our engagement." It's my understanding, too,
Is that
from
him? Is that
rumors
Jim
going
Lovell?
around that the sanitary conditions would not have passed OSHA minimums. They were ready for Apollo 8. So, too, was Bill Anders, William Anders, making his very first flight. He graduated with the Naval Academy, an experienced pilot, recipient of a master's degree in nuclear engineering. He served as lunar module pilot for the mission. Unfortunately for him, the mission did not carry a lunar module. Engineering problems had delayed its availability. But in this
So they didn't have a lunar module, so they just sent it anyways without a lunar module. That's kind of baller, actually, right?
next statement, it may be a little bit controversial to some of the crew beside Bill Anders, but as Apollo 8 orbited the moon, Bill had to be content with making one of the most historic photographs of the 20th century, the incomparable image of the Earth rising over the lunar surface. There'll be a little contention on
I've
that,
seen that
perhaps.
picture.
The public build-up to Apollo 8 was tremendous. A worldwide audience anticipated the mission. Launched just before the Christmas holidays, the mission balanced the tension of the space race with a transcendent feeling that the accomplishment was truly for all humanity. Live television broadcast by the astronauts while orbiting the moon brought the adventure to almost a quarter of all people living on Earth by best estimates.
And I will say, just because I think I have to say it, I do believe we landed on the moon. Okay, that's it's personal belief. Maybe if we learn more about this, I can be convinced otherwise. But as of right now, I believe it was not a hoax and we did land on the moon. So just so you know, that's the bias at which I'm coming into space with. All right.
And the very memorable Christmas Eve scripture reading is something that none of us that heard that at that time, including many of you here, will ever forget.
You know what? I should watch the. I'm sure I can find it. I should watch the moon landing. I've never actually seen it. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen the recording at all. I've seen like the one clip everyone knows of, was it Neil Armstrong? Don't shoot me. Um, Neil Armstrong like jumping out of the thing and saying the small step for man quote. I've seen that clip, and then I've seen other clips of them like on the moon. I don't think I've never watched the full thing through. That's something I'll put it on the list. We'll do that. We'll do that at some point.
The success of the mission paved the way a few months later for Apollo 11, for Neil, Buzz, and Mike going to the moon, landing of
Buzz
humans on
Aldrin.
the moon, fulfilling
Was that the
President
first guy?
Kennedy's challenge to the nation.
I should know these
So
things.
it's really my pleasure not only to be here tonight, but to look forward to hearing some of the recounting of what happened on Apollo 8. And it's my pleasure to welcome the Apollo 8 astronauts and Dr. Martin Collins, curator in the museum's Division of Space History. Gentlemen, welcome. Thank you.
Wow. Those guys are old. And this was 20 years ago, at least. This was uploaded about 20 years ago. I didn't realize those guys were that old. Well, you know what? I'm just an idiot. I guess if they were. I don't know how old they were when they landed. They probably would have been in their 40s. And that was in the 60s. So I guess it makes sense that are these guys still alive? This is 2026. I'm recording this. Are these guys still around? If they were 40 in the 60s, probably not. Man, that sucks. I'll have to look that up, I guess.
Maybe a place to begin here
NASM.
is to ask.
What is NASM? Was it NASM before it was NASA? NASM? I don't know what that stands for.
Frank to give us a little bit of a sense of how the idea for the Apollo 8 mission began and how it sort of took shape in the months of the summer months of 1968.
Thank you, Martin. And thank you all for being here, and John for your generous introduction. We were assigned to the excuse me, third Apollo mission. Was supposed to have been a long
Frank Borman.
duration, relatively long durations, exercising the lunar module and command module in Earth orbit out to 8,000 miles.
At some point, I already have this planned. I would love to, and I intend to, find some sort of documentary about every single astronaut and learn about every single one of them. There's not that many of them, relatively. I believe there's still less than 100 people who have been astronauts in total. So that's a series I would like to start at some point on this channel, is going through and learning everything about all the different commanders and mission people and like all the people who have been to space. Got to learn something about them. And then if, that series kicks off, or if this channel kicks off at all, I would love to eventually also get into like some of the engineers and some of the visionaries and some of the people who like maybe don't get talked about as much, who have had a big impact on the space industry as we know it. So that's all stuff in the future. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think I should cover when it comes to general content. I'd love to hear from you guys. I'm going to try to be in the comments and interacting, and if there are indeed any comments. I'm not super optimistic about this channel, but I'm learning it anyways. I'm having fun, so hope you are.
And then in December, while we were out at Downey, California, going through the systems for the spacecraft, I got a call from Deke Slayton, our boss, who said, "Come back. We've had a change in plans." And he informed me that the CIA had informed NASA that they would
CIA.
probably be a Soviet attempt to go around the moon.
Okay, That makes
before
sense.
the end of the year, and they wanted to know if we could. This was in August. They wanted to know if we could change our mission, train, and be able to go. I immediately said yes because I knew that Bill and Jim would have, were dying for the chance to do this, and then we came back, and you've had the outline of what happened after that. But interestingly enough, the saga of Apollo 8 really should begin, or the Apollo program should begin with a fire in January of 1967. It killed three
Fire.
astronauts.
Oh my goodness.
Threw the whole program into disarray. And out of that terrible tragedy, I'm convinced came the genesis of the Apollo program that was so successful.
Was the fire like on a rocket, or was it just a fire like at the facility? Also, where did these guys launch out of in '68? Was it out of Florida, or was it California? Do they have a base in He just said California, so I was wondering. I don't know if they do. I know they do engineering kind of all over the country now. I don't know what they did in the '60s, but did they launch out of California, or did they launch out of Florida for the moon landing?
Part of the decision that was made when Frank went to Houston, and Bill and I were still out at Downey wondering what happened to Frank,
Who's this guy?
was the fact that the decision would go on Apollo 8 to the moon if Apollo 7 was successful. So in reality, that flight proved the improvements of the command module from the disastrous fire that we had in 1967. And that was the spur that allowed us to make that final decision after Apollo 7 to say, yes, let's go. Although we were training for the lunar mission
wish they would
prior
show the
to
name
the
for this
Apollo
guy.
7 flight.
I don't know who this guy
And that
is.
flight was successful because Frank, spent an awful lot of time
This guy too.
making sure that command module was safe.
John was awful generous in saying how important Apollo 8 was, and then Bill just mentioned Apollo 7
Okay.
being so important.
So the second guy was Bill. The first guy was Bill. Which guy's Bill?
But in reality, every damn flight was important. Think of John Glenn sitting on top
We
of
know
an
Frank
ICBM.
Borman. You showed us his name.
Really, an aluminum inner tube, because it wouldn't hold it without air. Isn't that correct? You had to have pressure in that thing, or you get a collapse. So NASA's program wasn't haphazard. It didn't just happen. It was planned every step of the way, and it was remarkable that it worked. I honestly believe that God was shining on us from the very beginning.
We had to start learning the lunar surface of the moon's topography to see the various craters. And this is sort of interesting because we brought in
James
people who
Lowell.
were
All right.
familiar with that to teach us some of the initial points. Because the mission of Apollo 8 was really to check the navigation and to check for suitable landing spots, the flat areas, the mare or the sea, that would give the people who would attempt the first landing the greatest chance of survival.
How did they choose the landing spots? Was it just visual? Like, were they just flying over and they just look out the window and they're like, yeah, that looks good? Because they didn't have LiDAR, or did they? I don't think so. I think LiDAR is fairly new. I guess they had sonar. Did they use sonar to try to beam down to the surface sonar rays and get it bounced back and see if it was flat enough? Or what were they even looking for as far as a landing spot? Like, what is your optimal condition for landing on the moon? I have lots of questions. I ask a lot of rhetorical questions. I ask a lot of non-rhetorical questions that may never be answered. But if you can drop a comment in the comment section and let me know the answers, that would be cool. I might even do a video reading through the comments and learning stuff. Or I might just take note of all these questions and look them up, and we can watch videos about them.
And consequently, our photography and looking around with those flat areas like the Sea of Tranquility, which Apollo 11 eventually landed on, that was one of our missions, and that was part of our training. And also, we had to do things that, in a three-dimensional effect, navigation was one of them because we were not going around the Earth anymore. We were.
Did NASA name all the different things on the moon, like all the different, like he just said, the Sea of Tranquility? Did they name that themselves, or is that like an internationally recognized name for a part of the moon? And who gets to name stuff? Did the Russians get to name stuff? Did they name the Sea of Tranquility for the sea turtles? Is that what they did?
We're going to have to test out the navigation system on the way to the moon to see how accurate it was, and this, of course, was the test flight of that particular aspect.
Cool. All right, so this video series is broken up into 3 parts. The Apollo 8 parts 1, 2, 3. This was part 1. I know I talked a lot. It's a reaction channel. I was reacting. So, anyways, thanks for watching. We will get into part 2 next, and then we will get into part 3 after that. And then we'll kind of just look around the YouTube channel for NASA and just see what's out there and see what they got and see what we can learn and go from there. So, thanks for joining me.